From the Denver Broncos Media Center, welcome to Broncos Country Tonight.
Welcome to Broncos Country Tonight as we preview a bit of what the Broncos have coming up for the remainder of the season, the remaining 5 games, including the Kansas City Chiefs coming up this Sunday at Empower Field at Mile High. And to help me break it all down, he's back, ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Ben Allbright. Hi, Ben.
How's it going? It's good to be back.
It's good to have you back here. And, of course, we're going to start out here with this Kansas City game. And I talked to Steve Atwater earlier in the week about this game. And look, there's a lot of challenges. The obvious challenge of the fact that this is the elite, one of the elite offenses in the NFL. And the Broncos offense up to this point has not been in any kind of conversation for that. So, first of all, just to keep pace, you have to have a little bit of okay, what are we building off of to create more points, to create more opportunities for the offense. Now, you and I liked a few things we saw against the Ravens. We did like a little bit more of the way they worked that offense. There was some nice balance to it. They used a lot of play action. They used a lot more 2 and 3 tight end sets. Russell Wilson got the ball out relatively quick. They also did create some deep and intermediate plays. Probably need a few more of those, but yet it's still only 9 points, Ben. So how do you turn what positives we saw against the Ravens into more points this week against Kansas City?
I think it starts with executing what it is that you're doing. They're getting more comfortable in what it is they're doing with these heavier sets, which they should have been doing from the get-go. They're doing better at getting the ball out quick. I have some gripes and some bones to pick with third down play calling and maybe throwing, Bridgewater/Shermer throwing it short of the stick stuff. Which they did a lot of in that Baltimore game. But if you're getting comfortable and you're being more efficient, it gives you an opportunity to score more points. I thought they should have been more aggressive at times on short yardage calls, in later down short yardage calls. You're a 3-win football team. What are you doing? Trying to play it safe.
Right.
But there are things to build on. They started to build on that. I'd like to see more of it. There are some things that I think they're starting to feel comfortable in, and I'd like to see more of that. Against Kansas City, it's going to be different. Kansas City's defense isn't as good as Baltimore, but their offense is obviously better. So you'll have the opportunity to expand a little bit on what it is you want to do. Hopefully you get the run game going. I think that needs to be your commitment because Latavius Murray averaged, 2 points something a carry in that game against. Now, the Ravens are one of the best teams against the run in the league.
The second best run team in the league, right.
But you need to establish that in order to do these other things. I did like the commitment to more play action. Still think they need more of it, in this offense. I'd like to see some more quarter boot, waggle type stuff with Russ. I thought he looked good doing that kind of stuff. I thought, people have been saying he's washed, but we saw some runs from him. It didn't look like he was washed to me. I just think that he's still trying to find his way in this offense. So find the things that you're comfortable with and do better with that. And I think they've got to make a commitment to getting better in the middle quarters, the second and third quarter. The first quarter on the script, they look good. The fourth quarter, when it was Russ improvising, they look good. The second and third quarter didn't look good, and that's something they got to clean up.
Yeah, they have to. Kansas City game is this week. You have Arizona, you got Los Angeles, you got Kansas City again, and then the LA Chargers to close things out. So whatever we're going to talk about as far as what we want to see for the remainder of the year, it starts with, again, as you talked about, feeling more comfortable, more confident in what you're doing, what you're trying to execute. And I know that there's going to be people watching this video saying, okay, well, you're at week 14 and we're just now talking about feeling comfortable. Yeah, it's not what anybody would want. But I will acknowledge when the Tampa Bay Buccaneers won the Super Bowl, the Broncos are not going to do that this year, but when the Tampa Bay Buccaneers won the Super Bowl with Tom Brady, they even said into December they still weren't clicking on all cylinders. So it's not impossible to imagine teams struggling even into this point, figuring out what they're trying to do.
Yeah, it takes a while for an offense to get going. It does. The problem is that you had the pieces for it to be putting out more points than it was putting out.
Absolutely.
And so the patience for that curve evaporated because you were a team that it couldn't even get to 17, 18 points, which is a low water mark in the NFL. The fact that you're averaging 13.8 is just embarrassing. So, I think the fan base is largely turned on that, and largely their patience evaporated simply because they couldn't meet even the bare minimum standard as they were trying to get it going. So, I understand it from that perspective. But you got to figure out the things you're good at. And now you're not going to have Cortland Sutton in this game. Jerry Jeudy isn't 100%. You're going to have to figure out the things that you're good at. You're going to have to figure out what these young guys are capable of and capable of doing, and you're going to have to cater your game plan to that.
Well, certainly one of the guys you're going to be featuring down the stretch is going to be Greg Dulcich. And he's shown to be one of the bright spots, if you will, of the offense. There aren't many of them right now, but I'd say if you're looking for some reasons of optimism, if nothing else, even to next year, Greg Dulcich is going to be at the top of that list.
Yeah, I think so. I think he's been a breath of fresh air. And Greg Dulcich was Nathaniel Hackett's guy. For all the things you want to bag Nathaniel Hackett about, he was the one banging the table to bring Greg Dulcich in here. That was his pick. And similar to the way Draymond Jones was Vic Fangio's pick. So, I think you have to kind of tip the cap to that the lone bright spot in terms of personnel appears to be somebody that Coach Hackett, wanted to bring in here. I think they need to find ways to be more creative with him, continue to feed him the football. If it's working, don't go away from it. Just keep doing it. There's no rule in football that says you can't run the same play 100 times if it's working. So continue to feed Greg Dulcich the football until teams clamp down on him. And if they do clamp down on him, it's going to give you a one-on-one somewhere else. So this staff need to quit trying to outsmart anybody. Do what works and build off that.
I think you said that perfectly, because it's not just how do you beat the Chiefs. It's how do you beat any team right now, right?
Not beat yourself.
You're right, and not beat yourself, right? So people will say, well, you want to beat the Chiefs, and you do want to beat the Chiefs, but that feels a little ways off right now. Mm-hmm. What I want to do is I want to play well enough, I want to have confidence enough that I can beat the Cardinals and I can beat the Rams, because then you're going to be doing something as a team, as an organization, where you can build off of. Right now, you're getting your 13.8 points per game, as you've brought up. You scored 9 points on the road against Baltimore this last week. And by the way, 6 of those were the offense, really, because the interception gifted the Broncos a chance. And they went 3 and out, and they kicked the field goal. So my point being here is you've eclipsed 20 points twice for the entire season. Mm-hmm. 23 is your season high. The focus for me is, regardless of the opponent right now, you need to become something that you have not. And that is something as a confident team. That is a team that knows what they are and knows what they're trying to do. And if you become one of those things, even if you figure out a few things that you can do well, and again, because a lot of these guys are going to be back next year, whether you change coaches or whatever you end up doing, there's going to be a lot of players back. They need to believe in each other. And I want to see that built on to, hey, give yourself a chance to win this Kansas City game. But what I want to do is I want to say, hey, when you guys come back next week and you have the Arizona Cardinals come into town, I want the Broncos offense to go out there and be like, hey, we're gonna do these things, and we know we can have success doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you need to figure out what you're good at and forge an identity off that. Right now, that's Greg Dulcich. You're good going jumbo and playing your tight end. That needs to be your identity.
Yeah, do it. Fine. I know you wanted to be an 11 personnel, a 3 wide, but you know what? That's just not your thing right now.
You're not slinging it all over the yard team. That's just not what you're good at. So find what you're good at and be good at that thing, and then build off of that, and maybe you can get to the point where you're confident enough and good enough to be able to be that sling it all over the yard football team. So I think that's the thing right now. Scale it all the way back. Find the things, go back, hit the tape, find what has worked all year. Find the things that have worked. Install that's your game plan. We're going to run these same 20 plays 3 times a game, and we're going to make this thing, we're going to do this stuff over and over again and make it work. And when we get to the point where we're able to add more, we're confident that we've got that down, this is our base install, then we'll start building off that. And maybe by the end of the year, you'll have enough positive momentum that that there's a conversation about trying to go forward with it. Right now, doesn't look like that conversation is going to exist.
It doesn't. And from that, you can build complementary football, which is what you should have been from the very beginning. Right. And some of these tweaks and changes, I think arguments can be made. Why weren't these done earlier? Yeah, I'm 100% on that. Things you and I have been talking about on Broncos Country Tonight, the radio show, wanting to see more of these things. They're finally starting to get installed. And guess what? You're already out of it. The season's basically over. But this is where, again, organizationally, for the health of the locker room, the offense needs to start pulling some weight, because you do wonder and worry a little bit for the defensive side of the ball, who have had some moments of brilliance. And they've also, I think over the last few weeks, we're starting to see it wear on them. We're seeing the weight of the season wear on this defense. And you see even moments where at the end of the Baltimore game, in those final few minutes, it just you could not stop the momentum of a backup quarterback, a 16-play drive for a touchdown, 91 yards. For me, it was a culmination of all of it. Mm-hmm. And you just figured that. So I think for the health of the organization, as we focus in on the Kansas City Chiefs this week, but you got the Cardinals and the Rams, 2 teams that are having their own struggles, especially the Rams. Those are games that you need to come back and you need to find a way to win. And you need to build something from those games.
Yeah, you can't snatch defeat from the jaws of imminent victory, because your offense can't just run out the clock on a few point lead,
like the Raider game.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Or can't hang on to the football, or those kinds
Colts
of things.
Game.
You can't keep shooting yourselves in the foot over and over again, and wasting an elite defense and expect this thing to get better.
Just not going to. And so for me, it's about the long-term health of the organization and locker room, and it starts with figuring out what you can do against Kansas City, who has their own problems on defense at times, right? They've struggled. They're not a very good red zone defense. The Broncos, If you make a 1A goal is to get to the red zone, which they didn't do against Baltimore, get to the red zone, the Kansas City Chiefs might be one of those teams that are going to allow you in. And if you start scoring some points, especially in front of your home crowd, you're going to build a little bit of momentum. And if nothing else, the defense is going to start feeling better. And I said, winning cures all. Mm-hmm. I'm not predicting a win against Kansas City, but I am predicting that this team is going to build on some of the things that they're finding consistency over the last few weeks.
I hope so, because I think you're at a real breaking point here.
Yep, agreed.
That if the defense doesn't see the offense continue an upward trajectory and start to score more points, I think you're at a breaking point.
All right, for Benjamin Allbright, I'm Ryan Edwards. Thanks for watching Broncos Country Tonight.
Denver's going to win it! You can stand up and salute in Denver, and you got the world champions that live in your town.